Well, hello there, my lovely. Welcome to another episode of our Coaching Corner here on YouTube. I am Sabrina Militello. I am a coach and founder of Empower Her Coaching. And my intention is to bring you these spaces where we can have just very straightforward and necessary conversations about how you can lead yourself into the quality of life that you so badly want to experience, how you can become the woman who can call in everything that she wants her life to be. Today, we're going to talk about something, and I've got my notes here because I've been trying to do a better job about staying on task with you. But today, we're going to talk about how self-leadership changes everything in your life. And when I was thinking about what it was that I wanted to bring to this conversation today, I took a moment to take stock of my life. I looked back on seasons of my life, decades of my life where things were not going well, where I was really struggling. I was struggling with my own sense of self. I was struggling in what my life looked like. I was struggling in the jobs that I had, the roles that I was playing. I was struggling in my relationships. My health was in the toilet. Like all these things that were just not going right. And then I thought about this era of my life that I'm in right now, that probably I've been in terms of my mindset and the woman that I am for a solid 9-12 months. And I think about what is so drastically different now. And the things that I'm experiencing now are a level of self-compassion, a level of self-belief, quality in my relationships, exceptional health, just this zest and belief in the joy of life. My experience of life is extraordinary. I take stock of the little things and the small moments. I'm much more compassionate and loving or connected, I should say, in my relationships. Externally, the work that I do and the spaces I get to occupy are extraordinary to me still. And I think what is different about me, what has changed, what has shifted to get me out of the pit, which is like how I like to describe when you get so bogged down by just how hard and bad everything is, to have drawn me into this era of my life where I really feel like I'm thriving and growing and expanding at an extraordinary rate. And the thing that I pinpointed it down to, the thing that I narrowed it down to, was self-leadership. I lead myself drastically differently now than I led myself before. And when you think of leadership, I hope what you have in your mind is somebody who is in front of the pack. They are setting the tone, setting the direction, setting the pace for where we're going. They're fueling the desire to get there. They're casting the vision for what it is that we're doing and where it is that we're going. They're very much the person that leads the way, for want of a better phrasing, right? I hope that that's what you hear when you hear leader. Obviously, if you've had bad leadership examples in your work environment or even in your home, in your socialization areas, then maybe those aren't the things that come to mind. Maybe it's much less positive than that. But I want you to think about that version of leadership, right? And then think about how you show up in that way for yourself. And one of the things that I understood from this little kind of exercise I did with myself was that when I was in the pit, I was still leading myself. But I was leading myself in a way that maybe you have experienced leadership before. I was saying one thing and doing something different. I was making myself wrong for everything that was going wrong. I was looking outside of myself on who to blame for all the things that weren't going according to plan. I was very destructive in my way of behaving. And it was just manifesting in an environment that was chaotic, an internal and an external environment that was chaotic, not at all focused and not driving in any specific direction. So when I think about that, it's still leadership, right? Because it's still my life that I'm moving in a direction, but it wasn't self-leadership in that governance way of this is where we're going, this is what we're doing, and this is how we're going to get there in a very positive way, really taking into account what it is that we wanted this life to be in the first place. So I asked you that question of how are you leading yourself currently? And I want to break this down into like three main areas. And I think I've been teaching in threes a lot recently, but it's just a really great way to organize my mind and kind of organize the content that I want to bring to you. And the three main ways of thinking about self-leadership that I want us to dive into are your ability to self-command, your ability to self-trust, and then your ability to emotionally regulate. Your ability to self-command, your ability to self-trust, and your ability to emotionally regulate. So let's just go for it, right? So when you're thinking about how you're leading yourself, and remember the topic of this conversation today is how self-leadership can change everything in your life. Self-leadership in the right direction, maybe that's a better way to put it, can change everything in your life. That first bucket of self-command is essential. How do you feel about somebody who is not, you can't rely on them to show up? Either you can't rely on their word, you can't rely on their deeds, you can't rely that they're going to show up in the ways that they say they will or the ways that you need them to bring forth a specific outcome. How do you generally feel about that person? You probably wouldn't put them in the category of being a leader, right? You probably wouldn't put them in the category of somebody who has great ability to direct their action in the positive direction. You probably don't trust them very much. You certainly can't rely on them. And you probably don't hold them in great esteem for being a great teammate or a great spouse or a great friend or a great colleague. You probably don't think of them like that, right? So when you think about your ability to self-command, which if you think about the word command, it plainly, simply means say something that is supposed to bring a particular result. Like when you command a dog to sit, you say the word sit and the dog sits if the dog has good grasp of the command, right? If you've taught the dog how to obey the command. So the ability to self-command, I see it very simply like that, like not to reduce ourselves to acting like a dog, but how can you use words or use systems, use rituals in your life that when you do them, it commands a specific action from yourself. A great example of this is, I know you've heard people that maybe they're runners or they're trying to bring about like new consistency in their running routine or their gym routine. And before they go to bed at night, they will lay out their gym clothes. So as soon as they wake up, when the alarm goes off, that's the command to get up, put your gym clothes on and go hit the streets or go hit the gym. That is somebody who has mastered the self-command, this self-command idea, right? They have a particular, a particular trigger, and that trigger puts them into a particular action. The trigger for them is when their alarm goes off, they get into their workout outfit and they go and get that workout done. So the question that I have for you is, do you have ways in which you can command your action so that you are going in the direction that you want your life to go, in your health, in your relationships, in your career, in your finances, in the environment that you live in. What would that look like for you if you were able to command yourself better? If you were able to say, this is what needs to happen, and that is what I'm going to do. And it be as simple as that. No self-negotiation, no yeah buts, no maybe ifs, no kind of looking outside of yourself. Like if that person gets their ducks in a row, or if that particular thing in the economy or the environment or in the government goes a particular way, then I'll be able to. No. How can you command a particular action from yourself and it happens? Because when you get to that level of leadership, self-leadership, can you see how everything in your life would change? Maybe you wouldn't struggle so much with overthinking being the thing that stalls you. Maybe you wouldn't struggle so much with procrastination. Maybe you wouldn't struggle so much with self-doubt stopping you in your tracks. If you were able to build a level of self-command that was unmessable with, for want of a better phrase, things in your life would change, wouldn't they? So think about that. Self-leadership, in some ways, rests on your ability to self-command. And if command doesn't sound like the right word for you, you don't love that because it sounds too heavy, or it sounds too military, or whatever your reasoning is, then choose a different word. Self-project, self-impose, self-select, like whatever, input whatever, but you understand the ethos or the theory that I'm trying to get across to you, right? If you were able to get yourself into action without negotiation, without hesitation, without looking left and right, how different could your life outcomes be? So that's the first piece, self-command being an aspect of strong self-leadership. The second piece of strong self-leadership, there we go, that was throwing me off, is self-trust. Listen, I talk on self-trust a lot because for a lot of the women that I work with, the women that I coach through The Inevitable Woman, my one-on-one private coaching experience, trusting themselves is something that we have to rebuild, because they're often women who are very high performing, who are in some ways incredibly high achieving, but who have gotten there through self-flagellation, who have gotten there through self-neglect, who have gotten there because they do the things that are expected of them, that they do the things that are required without ever really consulting whether it feels good to them, or ways in which they could do things in a way that nurtures themselves a little bit more, that celebrates themselves a little bit more, that considers their own wants, desires, preferences a little bit more, rather than being on the hamster wheel of this is just how it has to be. So there's a lot of self-trust that we have to rebuild, because a lot of the women that I work with and a lot of the women that I talk to, so you can probably recognize yourself in here too, have self-neglected for a very long time. And what happens when we self-neglect is that we lose the ability to trust ourselves. So self-trust isn't just about the way that I talk about it a lot in my outward social media and that kind of stuff, because for the masses, this what seems to happen a lot is not keeping your word to yourself, not being able to keep the promises that you make to yourself, saying that you're going to do one thing and then doing a completely different thing. This shows up a lot in my health coaching kind of arenas, being able to stick with those healthy habits and those healthy nutritional changes and all that kind of stuff, because cravings happen, or a date night happened, or girlfriends decided they wanted to go out drinking and you just couldn't miss out, and so your health habits completely fall to the wayside, right? So self-trust has the bucket of keeping my word, right? And building your ability to trust yourself that when you say you're going to do it, this time is going to be different. This time actually is going to be different. Trusting yourself enough to believe that you can make the changes necessary. That's like a very common overarching theme. But a gentler pocket or a more finite pocket of people need to understand the self-neglect part of that equation. That it's not that they can't trust themselves because they don't do the things that they said they were going to do. Because a lot of high-performing and high-achieving women, they can be counted on to do the things they said they were going to do, even with themselves. But they've neglected themselves along the way because they fell into a trap of it has to be this particular way or has to look this particular way, or I have to impress these kinds of people and I have to show up in this particular manner in order to fit in or fulfill or whatever. So part of building self-trust is also has to address that self-neglect that we've been operating underneath, that self-abandonment that we've been operating underneath. So how do you rebuild that? A lot of the things that I talk about when it comes to rebuilding the self-trust piece, when it comes to your word to yourself, is you simply have to start keeping your word to yourself. There's really no other way of building that level of self-trust. You have to simply decide that, okay, enough is enough. I can't continue breaking my promises to myself. I have to follow through and do the thing. And you have to go through that trial and error process of simply doing what you said you were going to do. But when it comes to building the ability to self-trust after periods of self-abandonment, there's almost a stripping back that needs to happen for you to understand what it is that you want, what it is that you need from a nervous system standpoint, from a self-love standpoint, from a self-reverence standpoint. What is it that I need to feel fulfilled? Wow, words are really hard today. To feel fulfilled and to feel taken care of and to feel as if I matter in the grand scheme of everything that I'm trying to achieve. You have to go through that self-exploration a little bit, do a little bit of like self-archiving and get to the bottom of what that could look like. And that sometimes can involve asking yourself some really hard questions and getting really real about how you've been doing it wrong, and not wrong, right? Because I don't think there's any one right way, but there is the right way for you. And so how have you been doing it wrong for you? How hasn't it been making sense for you? And what needs to happen in order for it to start making sense for you? Do you need to have morning care routines that are based around yourself so that your energy is set right for the day? Do you need to set boundaries with certain individuals so that your sense of well-being is protected? Do you need to schedule your work calendar, like throughout your day, to better favor or better reflect where your energetic shifts happen throughout the day? For example, are you more creative in the morning, so you set all of your work to-dos to happen in the morning when you're in that creative energy? And are you less creative in the afternoon, so you set all your like admin-y type things, your calls and things like that for the afternoon because you're not in that creative kind of energy? Do you see what I mean? Like, how can you better manage your schedule and your daily expectations to reflect where your energy goes throughout the day? These are all parts of rebuilding self-trust after periods of self-neglect or self-abandonment. That's just one simple example, but I want you to truly understand what it's going to take for you to start building that, stripping back and getting really, really curious about how you've been operating, how it does not serve you, and what operating from a place that does serve you could look like. You clear? I would love it if you would do that exercise and get in touch with me and let me know how it went. I would just love to hear what you found. I really would. So we've got a piece about self-command. We've got a piece about self-trust. and both of these relating to self-leadership. The third thing that I don't think we can have this conversation of self-leadership without addressing is emotional regulation. How are you managing your emotions around the things, people, situations, places, spaces, circumstances throughout the day that are completely not underneath your control? That's the kicker, right? Because when it comes to the things that we can control, i.e. ourselves, because that's the only thing in this world that we have control over, is ourselves, our energy, how we show up, the word we give, our bond, how we follow through on the things. That's the only thing that we can control, is ourselves. I don't necessarily believe we can control our feelings, but we can control how we respond to our feelings. So the only thing we can control is right here. So what happens to everything else? We have to develop the ability to regulate our emotions in a positive way so that we're not constantly reacting to the stresses, the inconveniences, and the BS, quite frankly, of the world. So how do you do that? Again, you have to set up lifestyle practices and ways of thinking, cognitive kind of triggers, cognitive commands that help you stay even keeled as much as you can in your emotional response to everything outside of yourself. And part of this is your level of emotional intelligence, right? I believe that emotional intelligence has two kind of arms to it. It's how you emotionally regulate yourself, and then how you're emotionally regulated in your response to other people, everything outside of you. So this emotional regulation piece is about emotional intelligence. And the thing that I really want to drive home in this, and I'm not going to labor on this point too much because we've talked about emotional intelligence a ton, and I don't think you need me to beat you around the head with it, but it's understanding that you don't need to feel good in order to do what is necessary to move your life in the direction you want it to go. And I know you don't want to hear me say that. I know this may have just made you throw your device across the room because you're so mad at me when I just said that, but it's okay. I'm fine with being the bad guy if it will help you actually stand up and confront yourself a little bit in the ways in which that you're blocking your everything that you want. Because you reacting to the world could be the very thing that is stopping you from living the kind of life that you want to live. You don't have to feel good. You don't have to feel like it to show up and do what is necessary to move your life forward. You don't have to be in a positive emotional headspace. It doesn't have to feel aligned. It doesn't have to feel sunshine and rainbows in order for you to do the things. And I know that that's so anti what we're hearing in popular culture at the moment, where everything should feel aligned and everything should feel in flow. And if it doesn't feel like that, then I'm not doing it. Well, if you're a woman who's wanting to achieve great things, whatever great things means to you, if you're a woman who's wanting to succeed in her life, if you're a woman who's wanting to start a business, grow a business, scale a business, if you're a woman who's wanting to elevate to the highest levels in her career, if you're a woman who's wanting to have an extraordinary quality of a relationship with a significant other, if you're a woman who wants to be an extraordinary parent, if you're a woman who wants great health as she ages, if you're a woman who wants to be in a wonderful financial position, if you're a woman, insert whatever it is that you want, you're not going to feel like it all the time. I'm sorry. You're not. Some days, your basic instincts of wanting to hit snooze and sleep the morning away are going to want to kick in. Some days, the days where you want to lay on the couch and watch Ted Lasso all afternoon, that's what's going to be the strongest emotion for you. The days where you want to eat your body weight in chocolate, the days where you want to yell at all the people so they leave you the F alone, the days where you just cannot. Those days are going to happen. And if you are somebody who has been allowing her life to be led by those emotions, so those days happen, How is that working for you? I need you to understand that you don't have to feel like it. It doesn't have to feel good in order for you to do it. If you are very, very clear on the direction that you want your life to go, if you're very clear on what it is that you want to create, build, step into, not every part of that process is going to feel great, is going to feel aligned, is going to feel fun, but they are necessary. So when it comes to this emotional regulation piece, where is it currently that you are allowing your emotions to lead your actions? And how much better would your life be? Would it really, and be honest, change a lot of things if you allowed your plan to take the lead, not your mood? It's a hard one to sit with, and I get it. Part of the battle when it comes to personal growth, when it comes to expansion and evolution and grasping everything that we want our lives to be, is understanding where it is that we're the thing that's standing in the way. And not everybody is capable of holding that, because nobody wants to admit that they're the reason why things are not going the way they want them to go. I get that. But once you accept that you're the reason why things are not going the way they want them to, the way you want them to go, guess what? You can change that. If you understand that you are the problem, you can also take on that you are the solution. And that is a beautiful place to get to in your relationship with yourself. So when it comes to self-leadership and understanding that self-leadership changes everything in your life, it comes down to self-command, self-trust, and emotional regulation. And I really hope that you can take those 3 areas and do some excavating for yourself to discover how you can better set up commands, how you can better set up systems to govern self-trust, specifically after self-neglect, and how you can better regulate your emotions so that you can show up and do what is necessary to move your life in the direction you want it to go, regardless of how you're feeling in the moment or regardless of what the government is doing out there. I really hope that this has given you some solid tools and steps forward that you can take in grasping just what is available to you in this life. Because listen, I wouldn't be in this era that I'm currently in executive leadership, in my coaching career, in where my marriage is, where my health is, where our finances are, if I didn't master self-leadership. And I truly believe that I am a master of leading myself. I'm not perfect at it, but I have mastered the ability to do that. And anybody who is in my circle that sees the good, the bad, the ugly, the way in which I show up in my life, they will be able to tell you that I am a master of being able to lead myself. And when you're looking to elevate your life to levels that 5-year-old you would be so proud and flabbergasted that that's where you're at, that's what it's gonna take, all right? I would love it if you would tell me your thoughts about this conversation. Give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. I love to see those. Consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't yet. Share this with somebody that you think could benefit from it. Share it on your social media. I would love it if more people had the ability to hear these kinds of conversations and be part of these kinds of discussions so that we can all be moving forward in the ways that empower us to live the quality of life that we want to live. Thank you for being here. Thank you for trusting me to be part of your story. And let's just keep doing that together. All right? Until next time, take care.